Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is me, Atiq Ahmad. Today we will study the plant tissues, and we will study the second part of the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we have started the tissues and we have started the plant tissues. We have studied the simple tissues in the previous lecture in the first part. Today we will study the compound tissues or the complex tissues of the plants. So we will start from here, the compound or complex tissues. Compound or complex tissues, we will start from here. A plant tissue that is composed of more than one type of cells is called a compound or complex tissues. Previously, we have studied the simple tissues which are made of just one type of cells, and those all cells collectively form tissues and they perform a similar one function. While today we are going to study the compound complex tissues which are made of different types of cells, and these cells collectively perform a specific function. These different types of cells collectively perform a broad function. They help each other to accomplish the broad task. Xylem and phloem tissues which are found in the vascular plants are example of compound tissues. Now xylem and phloem tissues, these are found only in vascular plants. While in non-vascular plants, those are also known as lower plants. Those were primitive plants. In those plants, the vascular bundles or the xylem or phloem, these are not found. These are also known as vascular bundles. The xylem and phloem tissues are also known as vascular bundles, and they are only found in vascular plants, in higher plants, in advanced plants. For example, the angiosperms and gymnosperms groups of plants. So they are not found in the lower plants, in the small and less advanced plants. We will study these one by one. Xylem tissue. Xylem tissue is responsible for the transport of water and dissolved substances from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant. The xylem tissues basically transport the water and dissolved substances, various mineral salts, from the roots where it is absorbed. The roots have root hairs. The root hairs absorb water and mineral salts from the soil, and that water and mineral salts are then transported through xylem tissues to various parts of the plant. Those parts are called aerial parts. Aerial means those parts which are in the air, which are above the ground. So the function of xylem tissues is to transport water and dissolved substances from the roots to the above ground parts, means the aerial parts of the plant. Due to the presence of lignin, the secondary cell wall of these tissues are thick and rigid. Now, these xylem tissues have secondary cell wall, and that is composed of lignin. Lignin is a hard and complex molecule. So as a result, these cells have hard walls, and these hard walls provide strength and support to the plant body also. So the xylem tissues not only perform the basic function of transport of water and dissolved substances, but additionally they also provide strength and support to the plant body because their cell walls are thick and hard. Now, two types of cells are found in the xylem tissue: vessel elements and tracheids. These are the two categories: vessel elements and tracheids. Vessel elements or cells have thick secondary cell walls. They lack end wall and join together to form long tubes. While the second category, tracheids or slender cells, slender means thin cells with overlapping ends. Now we will observe it diagrammatically. I'm just showing you the xylem cells, or suppose this is one xylem cell, this is another xylem cells. So they are head to head attached, and their end walls, there are spaces, there are pores, so they form a long tube in this way. One cell, two cells, similarly there will be other cells, and they are head to head porous. They have pores, holes at these ends, so they are connected here, so they form a long tube. While the tracheids are thin cells which are just associated with these vessel elements. So diagrammatically it is shown here. These are vessel members, vessel element cells of the xylem. The xylem is composed of two types of cells, the vessel elements and the tracheids. So these are vessel members or vessel elements. This is one cell, this is another cell, there will be still another cell, and there will be further more cells. And perforation plate. Perforation means pouring, holes. So these, look at here, there are pores. These are perforated. They have holes because they have to attach head to head and to form a long tube. So these are vessel members or vessel elements. Another type of cells which are associated with these vessel elements in the xylem, those are tracheids. These are tracheids. They are attached with each other and they are attached sidewise too. We will move towards the second complex type of tissues, the phloem tissues. Phloem tissues are responsible for the conduction, for the transport of dissolved organic matter, food, between the different parts of the body. Because the food is synthesized in the leaves where photosynthesis occurs, so the food is transported from the leaves to the stem, to the branches, to the roots and various other parts of the plants. But remember, the phloem is not only responsible for this transport of synthesized food which is formed in the leaves. They also transport food from the roots to the upper parts of the body, particularly during the autumn season. Whenever there is autumn seasons and there is no photosynthesis, so the stored food which is stored in the roots and various parts of the body, that food is transported from the roots to the upper parts of the plants through the phloem tissue. So remember, the phloem not only transport food from the leaves to the stem and branches and roots, but during the autumn season, the phloem also transport food in the opposite direction from the roots to the stem and leaves, because in the autumn the leaves are not there, so there will be no photosynthesis, so the stored food will be transported from the parts where it is stored, for example roots, to various parts of the plant through phloem. The phloem tissue consists of two types of cells, the sieve tube cells and the companion cell. The sieve tube cells are long and their end walls have small pores. Again, just like the vessel elements of the xylem, they also have end wall and have small pores. Again, these have these end walls porous. They have pores because they have to make tubes for the transport of food. Many sieve tube cells join together to form a long sieve tubes. Companion cells make proteins for the sieve tube cells and they also provide energy to the sieve tube cells. So the phloem, diagrammatically we will observe it here. The phloem tissue basically consists of the two types of cells. The sieve tube cells, these are the sieve tube cells. This is one, there will be another, there will be still another, and there are small pores here. These are perforated, these have pores because they have to connect head to head and they have to form a long tube for the transport of food. And similarly here, this is companion cell. This companion cell provides ATP energy to this sieve tube cells for its function, and it also form various proteins for this sieve tube cells. So they collectively perform basically the function of transport of food, because the actual transport occurs between the cells of sieve tubes. They form a tube, so the actual transport occurs through that tube, but the companion cells help in this transport by providing energy and proteins to this sieve tube cell. This is the end of today's lecture. Inshallah, next time see you with a new lecture. Take care. Allah Hafiz.